The Hog's Nigh is brought to you by TicketClub.com, your one-stop shop for live events nationwide. Whether you're looking for game, theater, or live performance tickets, don't sweat it. TicketClub.com has you covered. So make sure you're going there for all your live entertainment needs, and make sure you're clicking over to them from the banner at the top of thehogsnigh.com.
It's Just Business with Steve Thomas and John Worrell. And now, here's your host, Chris Leary. Hello, everyone, and we are back with another episode of It's Just Business. It's yet again, we have a two-man crew. This has been going on for 6 weeks now. John is with me. John.
Yeah, it's the best two-man crew, though.
You see, you get me to
of all the two-man crews that we've had.
This is the best one.
This is tops. It doesn't get any better.
You just insulted our co-host Chris, who is not available. Chris has got family stuff I think going on this week, so he's prioritizing other things over the show. Which
the only reason this is the best two-man crew is because Chris and I haven't done one yet on our own.
Yeah, that's because I'm the fool who never has anything that he lets gets in the way of this.
You're the Iron Man. You're the solid. You're getting the trophy.
Do you know how many airports I've taken a microphone and big headphones through thanks to this show and this website?
We're naming the trophy the Steve Thomas Reliability Trophy. Because
my anal retentive nature will not allow me to schedule around one of these shows.
Steve Thomas's anal trophy.
I go through security at airports and go, okay, I have a microphone in here. Are you going to make me take it out and search it? And sometimes they go, no, just leave it in there. And then they take it out anyway, which causes me, problems. But I feel like a moron taking this big microphone setup out and setting it, So sometimes I gamble and sometimes I don't.
The things you do, you give and give for the show, and we love you for it.
You're the only one.
We meaning me.
Yeah,
and nobody
exactly.
Else. That's right.
Nobody else cares, and nobody else appreciates us at all. But that's okay, because it's a good day, because we have lots of fun stories here. Because there's just lots of humor. John and I think, in particular, find a lot of humor in some of these stories.
More than we should.
Because, here's a newsflash for people. There are a lot of idiots in the world. And the idiots in the world have caused a lot of these problems. But we're going to not start with idiots. We're going to get to the idiots. The first thing we're going to talk about is DirecTV, which has been a source of topics on this show before. Because it never gets any better.
Because they're idiots.
They are idiots. I think, actually, I would maybe call DirecTV desperate more so than idiots. I think desperation may be the adequate term, because
it may be. Tell us what's going on.
So, we talked about this a little bit before, because the NFL's media network, media contracts are all coming up for renewal in conjunction with the new CBA here in a couple years. DirecTV has had a stranglehold / monopoly on the broadcast of NFL games, on an on-demand basis. For years and years and years, there was a massive lawsuit with the NFL about it, because the NFL didn't want to pay them as much, and they lost. Well, the latest thing that has happened now, and this is from our buddy Mike Florio, it's Mike Florio's site. Michael David Smith is the author, and just as an aside, Mike Florio is not a fan of the Hog's Nigh, which makes me happy, because I think he's a little nimwit. But nonetheless, his site has an interesting story here, dated July 20th, called "The Start of NFL Season Looms Over DirecTV's Negotiation with Networks." And what has happened here is that DirecTV, or CBS, is a whole bunch of CBS affiliates are no longer on DirecTV, because there's a fight over fees and whatnot going on. And so DirecTV customers in a bunch of cities, New York, Los Angeles, Chicago, Philadelphia, Dallas, San Francisco, and the list goes on and on, don't have CBS. That means they can't get local CBS broadcast NFL games. Now, the reason why that relates to DirecTV is that DirecTV can't broadcast the local games, on network, we think. And so that is causing some of these fans in these cities, New York, Los Angeles, Chicago, all these, to not be able to get their local games if they're DirecTV customers. So basically, it's screw the customers and screw the fans over a fight over fees. Which, where have we heard this before? Never. Yeah, money has never come in the way of...
This is the first time, Steve.
Money has never come in the way
No.
of customers and,
It's our motto. It's always about the fans.
That's the entire concept of the show, is that these companies care about you.
That's right.
It's
your experience.
In my experience, it's never just about money and just about business. It's all about how the NFL and how major sports media markets can do the right thing for the little guy. That's what this is about.
Sure.
So, no, but the larger question here is, like I said, NFL or DirecTV has had a monopoly on this. But the problem is, if they really get into a real fight that can't be fixed with CBS, and CBS has fought with other providers before they fought with Time Warner Cable. Apparently, I don't remember this, but that's in the Pro Football Talk article. They fought before. So if we go to season, and these are major markets. There's like 15 of them that are NFL markets. If we go to the season and they can't watch their local games, what do you think DirecTV customers are going to do? My guess is that they will abandon them in droves, and particularly since the NFL is becoming more accessible on other platforms sort of every year.
So the part of the challenge is, Steve, you and I have known each other now. It's pushing 15 years.
Is it really that long?
Because I was in California, and I left California in 2007. So it's been a long time, is what I'm saying. And anybody like you who has known me for a while knows that I move all the time.
You do.
I have lived everywhere, and I bought a house here in southern Pennsylvania. I'm very happy with it. It's a beautiful home. I like the neighbors. I like the East Coast. The odds of my being here next year are almost nil. I have no ability to.
You've moved for reasons I've never understood why.
I have moved for reasons I have never understood why. It just happens. So I have a lot of experience with researching and finding a new way to watch the Washington Redskins every single year. And sometimes the answer is DirecTV. Sometimes the answer is some hodgepodge combination of local channels and illegal web links and God knows what I can find. Whatever I can find. So DirecTV has always been sort of, generally speaking, the most reliable. The problem, with it is that you have to pay X amount for the DirecTV service and then X amount more for the Sunday ticket, and then they always try to upsell you to this, and then you need to get the AT&T digital package, and it's never what you think you're going to pay. You're always paying twice as much as you think you're going to. And the experience is never as good as you want it to, because I remember 2012, right? It was a magical year for the Redskins. We made it to the playoffs.
Can I correct you there?
It
was the only magical year in the past 25 years.
It was an amazing year for a while. Yeah. We were all hopeful that year, and we had potential and dreams. Those were wonderful times back when we weren't successbut we thought maybe we could be, and that's the best thing we've had since Gibbs won. So but in that year, in the later half of that year, they started flexing our games, and we're going to move this into the primetime slot here, and we're going to move this one to a Saturday game, and we're all these. And DirecTV wouldn't show any of these games because they were available through local channels, which meant now I had to, in addition to this, I now had to get channels that I didn't normally have because I only had the DirecTV. And it was so painful because I'd spent hundreds of dollars to be able to, all I wanted to do was watch the damn Redskins. And I spent so much money, and then at the end of the season, your team's doing well, so you can't see them anymore through us. You have to see them through some other, and so it was painful. So the fact that DirecTV is now screwing up the one thing that gave them any viability is an option to me. Well, maybe I'll go direct. Well, now they can't even figure themselves out with CBS. So, no, there's no way I'm going to, because at this point, if I get DirecTV and Sunday Ticket, I'm gambling on the idea that they're going to figure something out. Frankly, I don't think gambling and sports mix. So,
well, it wouldn't affect you because your home market isn't the Washington, D.C. area.
They'd find a way for it to affect me.
Well, maybe so. Maybe so.
Absolutely.
And
guaranteed.
I mean, this is kind of a theme of all of our DirecTV, discussions we've ever had on the show. And by the way, the reason why this problem exists really, in this whole home team blackout rule thing, it's because the network contracts pay the NFL dramatically more money than anything else, and so they take precedence, and they have the ability to negotiate into these contracts, the blackout rules, so it's to protect the ratings for the local affiliates as much as possible. So that's hence the reason for this. The DirecTV thing is just sort of not pocket money. It's more than that, but it's just kind of an added bonus. It's the NFL's side gig. It's the NFL's side piece, basically.
It feels to me like every other...
Your dog agreed with me.
My dog has got opinions like you wouldn't believe. I think that my wife may have let... So here's the story. We the other weekend, we adopted 2 kittens from a buddy of mine, and we brought them home. And these kittens, they were 8 weeks old or something like that. So now they're maybe 11 weeks old, 10, 11 weeks old. And the dog is he'll be 3 years old here in a few weeks. And he's huge. He's a 70-pound lab shepherd mix. And he loves everything violently. He is a violent lover of things. So
isn't that a crime? That's got to be like assault kittens. Or something.
Yeah, and so my wife, God bless her, my wife is as you know, we've discussed this on the show before, the greatest woman who's ever walked the planet, and I'm not taking that back, and I mean my current wife, not my ex-wife or
just to be clear,
potential future wife. So the one that right now, whenever you're listening to this podcast, that's the wife I'm talking about, is this one. As of the time that you're listening. So she's an animal person. She grew up 13 cats, and then she went to school and got her degree in animals and everything. And so I said to her the other, hey, there's these kittens. Should we get them? And she lit up, and yes. And so we got the kittens. Now she wants to introduce them to the dog. So I guarantee you what has just happened outside of this room. I'm not in my normal room because the normal room has become the home of the kittens, and they've taken over everything. And so now she's trying to let them out to meet the dog, and the dog loses his mind. And then when you add into that, there's an 18-month-old that gets thrown into the mix. It's just absolute chaos outside of my door.
Is the dog hungry, or has it eaten yet?
It's eaten. I fed the dog. Every morning we go for a walk. He met other dogs. We threw the ball. I fed the dog. I fed the cats. Everybody was fed. I fed everybody.
Because the dog doesn't need another snack. Because you're talking about a humongous 70-pound dog and a tiny kitten.
Sure, but the cats they smell so good.
Welcome to It's Just Business, folks.
Yes. The point of all of this was, the hell was the point? DirecTV is a pain in the ass.
There you go.
I believe that's where
that was where we're going with this, and we wanted to bring this up just to sort of tell you that it's the latest in the DirecTV drama. I personally, I would be truly shocked if the NFL re-ups this DirecTV package. When it expires here in a couple of years, after all of the nonsense that they've been through with DirecTV. They've spent millions and millions of dollars on legal fees fighting with them. They have customers mad at them. DirecTV is desperate, to keep the NFL because there's no reason why the DirecTV even exists other than the NFL at this point.
Here's an interesting thing that happened recently. Yeah. I believe that some court, and you're the legal mind in all of this, so you may know. Some court recently decided it was going to be okay for T-Mobile and AT&T to merge. That happened a few days ago. It came across my feed, and I've got T-Mobile for my phone. I'm not saying that because of all the sponsorship dollars they're throwing at us. I honestly have T-Mobile, and honestly, they don't care about us.
True, it's just business.
So, but I have T-Mobile, and if somehow the merger of AT&T, which I believe owns DirecTV, and T-Mobile makes it possible for me to watch football easier then I'd be thrilled with that. But what I was interrupted by the dog when I was thinking was every other sport has figured out, most other sports have figured out some means for people who like a specific team to follow that team. I know that baseball does this well, and I believe that basketball does this well. Football does this terrible. There is no ability in football for you to follow a team. You get everything or you get whatever you can find through nefarious means. But nowhere does it let you sign up for a team.
Well, there's a
package,
reason for
which
this.
Is really what I.
You know what the reason is? There's a reason that makes sense for this. It's because the NFL market is so strong that they don't have to. Okay, they make so much money on all these other media outlets that they have. That they really don't need to offer a package like that. There are some, like DirecTV was doing just gangbusters for years and years and years with this, and everybody was willing just to pay the whole $100 because I think in the beginning it was $100. It was like $99, I think, for the season.
Now it's like $350 or something.
Enough people do that they don't have to offer a Teams package. That's why it's all about money. With them, it's not about the convenience of subscribing to your team. They'd rather just make you spend the whole $300 and whatever dollars it is now, because you will.
So here's what didn't exist when DirecTV and Sunday Ticket came into being. What didn't exist was a plethora of live streaming options that are technically illegal, but it's probably, I don't even know if it's necessarily illegal for you to click the link as much as it is illegal for them to distribute the content. Because I think what they say is it's illegal to, and what they said at the start of every show since the dawn of time, any broadcast or description of this event is,
without the express written consent of the NFL.
They're not supposed to take that feed and distribute it. But the odds of somebody, maybe it's higher for me now that I'm saying this on a public space, but the odds of somebody who clicks one of these links having the cops knock on their door 3 hours later and say, listen, we're going to jail because you watched the Redskins lose to the Bucks or whatever, is like nil. And that's an option that a lot of people, there are entire websites and forums and so forth dedicated to helping people find places to watch. And I don't think that people are going to stand for spending, $350. If they screw up Sunday Ticket and don't manage to get people what they want, then people are going to stop paying for it because they don't have to.
I think you're overestimating the hacked network market.
No, but I think it's growing. I think that every year more and more people get turned on to this and find out about it and figure out how to do it. I don't think it's a shrinking number.
It's probably not shrinking, but I don't think it's enough to really matter. Those websites get shut down sometimes, by the way. You're right. They're never going to go after however many people are watching because there's no point. Even if you could dream up a federal interstate sort of crime on it, which we probably could. Nobody cares, and it's more than that because these networks are hacked out of Europe, and so you're really talking about cross-border, crimes here.
Probably
not probably. They're not hacking CBS; they're hacking British television networks that are carrying the NFL.
But a lot of them aren't hacked. A lot of them are just people with a camera pointed at their television.
I say hacked.
Showing a feed.
I say hacked, but that's what I mean. However they're rebroadcasting it. But point is, I hear you, but I don't know. I don't think anybody's ever counted those audiences. Number one, I can't imagine it's all that large. Maybe it is, and those are terrible ways to watch a football game. I had to stop doing it when we started this. I did it like you did, John, and I had to stop doing it once we started the web. Once we started the website, I couldn't watch those games and still analyze them. Because the feeds were so bad. So I now go to sports bars, which doesn't make me happy, but it's my only option other than subscribing to DirecTV, which I refuse to do.
Yeah, sports bars. That's your other choice. And being out of market, trying to convince somebody to put on the audio for the Redskins is sometimes
Well,
tough.
I've never had a problem so far. I go to the little dives, that they need the customers. So
See, I'm out in the middle of the field, so there's
don't
no
have a
sports bar.
option.
I got nothing.
So what's the
man.
future of
I
all
got-
this? I mean, like I said on the last time we talked about DirecTV, they may not fix this. It's possible they might not fix this CBS problem that started this discussion before the season. If they don't, we'll see. Because, again, it's not the first time DirecTV and cable companies have gotten in fights with networks. But this is going to be tolerated for another 2 seasons. Because that's when the CBA expires. That's when the media contracts expire. I think the NFL is just trying to kind of get through until the end, and they're going to take a big picture look at all of it. They don't want to renew DirecTV. They had an option to renew DirecTV or to terminate the DirecTV relationship just this summer, and they didn't. So they're trying to get through to the end so they can take a big picture look at all the media contracts and figure out how we can make the most money sort of in total. That's what's going on. So don't expect this to get any better for probably another 2 years.
2 years. All right, 2 years. I'm putting you on the clock.
Yeah, please do. So
2 years, I can watch my games happily.
yeah, until then, you're gonna have to go on Reddit. Hope you don't get a virus. You're gonna have to click through Russian bride ads, to get to the content.
They know where to find me. I'm there anyway.
Yeah, you may have a Russian bride show up at your doorstep if you watch too many of those streams.
With tickets to the Redskins.
and no ability to speak English or know why she's there.
I'm buying the Russian bride NFL package.
You get a free bride and you get to watch the games. That might be the bride you're talking about when people listen to this show, as a matter of fact.
It could well be that's my current. If so, she's the best.
And she's an animal lover.
Absolutely.
Okay, so let's move on. And, we move on from a network that does things that make no sense to a football player that has done something that makes no sense.
Does things that makes no sense.
I'm talking about Washington Redskins running back Adrian Peterson. And as you guys know who listen to this, we are all, John, me, and Chris are all Redskins fans. And so we take a more interest in this probably than others. But here's what's happened. Adrian Peterson has a whole bunch of lawsuits pending against him by a whole bunch of private lenders.
Attaboy.
Yeah. Now, to back up, Adrian Peterson's been in the NFL a long time. His total gross earnings are over $100 million. Now, when I say gross, for those of you who are less financially inclined, what I'm talking about is if you add up all the value of all his contracts that he's had, it comes out to $100 million. No, that doesn't mean he ever got $100 million. He had to pay agents, probably a manager or something. He paid
probably a few taxes.
Yeah, he paid taxes. So if he pocketed $50 million out of that, he's probably doing well. So that's realistically, he probably had $40 or $50 million, probably in actual net in the bank in his hand profits.
Now wait, when you talking about his gross income, are you talking specifically from
just football
contracts, or are you including endorsements?
No endorsements. That's just NFL contracts. So add in however much more for his endorsements. I don't think he's ever been a major national pitchman on the level of Peyton Manning. So he's
not a Manning Jordan guy, but he's making some.
Yeah, he's making some amount. So call it, just for the sake of the argument, call it $50 million. So that's probably realistically how much money he's had. Well, here's what he's done, kids. The first lawsuit here is brought by something called D'Angelo Vehicle Sales. Now,
sounds good already.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And now what D'Angelo Vehicle Sales did was lent Adrian Peterson money to pay off other debts, to include payday lenders.
So hold on. Let's just to make sure I'm following with you. Adrian Peterson or his businesses borrowed money from a car sales company to pay off other business loans.
Correct.
That he had.
To the tune of $5.2 million. And so the lawsuit is
doing good so far.
Yeah, the lawsuit is asking for $6.6 million, which that obviously includes interest and default interest, and hence the other $1.4 million. So for those of you who aren't aware how payday lenders work, a payday lender is something that you go in, you bring your pay stub, and they will, on the basis of how much your pay stub says you earned, they will grant you a short-term loan, to the tune of a month.
They're going to front you some money until your money comes
In some states, interest can be as high as like 25%. Some states have limits in state statutes as to how much interest they can charge, but either way, it's an outrageous amount. It's an outrageous interest. This is something that's typically used by lower income people who aren't financially savvy, who don't realize that that's a crappy way to live. And the problem here is this: say you borrow $400 from a payday lender because you need to get your car fixed.
Right.
And so you're going to walk in there, you're going to say, I work at place X, I make $1,500 a month, they give you $400, you fix your car, but the problem is, if you make so little money that you had to go to the payday lender in the first place, you probably don't have the $400 next month to repay the loan,
right?
Plus the other $50 in interest, because the interest is outrageous. So then what they do,
and they know that full well.
And so then what they're going to do is say, no problem, we'll just extend your contract another month at another 25% interest, and so it's like this, catch-22 nuclear holocaust of loans that goes on and on and on.
And this falls into the broader category that we refer to as predatory lending. Is that correct?
Yeah, this is called predatory lending because they're preying on people who are unsophisticated, who don't have any money, who aren't qualified to have a loan like this.
Pretty desperate, and somebody's going to get them through the immediate short-term problem.
And so you've heard the term loan shark. These people are sleazebags, and they're loan sharks. So Adrian Peterson, for just reasons I can't comprehend, went to one or more of these people to borrow money. Now, Adrian Peterson's never been on our show. We don't know him at all. But this is an extremely unsophisticated thing to do. Adrian Peterson could have probably walked into Wells Fargo Bank and asked for a line of credit based on his guaranteed money in his contract, and it would have been no problem. It would have been from people who are honest, who are going to charge a reasonable amount of interest, normal banking. And for those of you who say, Wells Fargo's been in front of Congress, I'm just using them as an example. Pick your bank, Chase Bank, Bank of America. All of that would have been legit at some reasonable interest rate, just based on the fact that he's Adrian Peterson. Instead, he goes...
But he somehow decides to go to a payday lender company. Okay.
Yeah, so he's got one or more. Who knows? And he's borrowed millions of dollars from these payday lenders. I don't know how you even do that. I don't even know... What we don't know is... the original loans have built up in a massive amount of interest. So how much he borrowed versus how much of this original $5.2 million is principal, who knows? But the point is, he borrowed a lot of money, and so he is clearly an extremely unsophisticated person when it comes to finances, regardless of the fact that he's made $100 million.
Well, yeah, but he didn't make money by being a sophisticated financial genius. He made money by being a second coming of Walter Payton.
Yeah.
He's an incredible football player, and that's where his focus has been. So, yeah, he's I expect a lot of people who have dedicated themselves to being premier athletes are unsophisticated financially. So what you see in the headlines and the articles is he trusted the wrong guys, which undoubtedly is true. Even if the only people he trusted were the payday lenders, he's trusting the wrong guys one way or the other. But ultimately, he's a grown-ass man, and it's his job to be responsible. He's got to be held accountable for his own actions. But yeah, Adrian, if for some ungodly reason you're listening to this show, and I would say it's entirely possible because from what I understand, just based on this conversation, you don't make great decisions. So there's a decent chance that you're listening to us right now. Please find a financial advisor, financial advisement firm that's been around for a long time, that has credibility, that other people, a lot of people, Adrian, who have a lot of money, and some of those people who manage that money well. You work for one of them. There's a lot I don't like about Dan Snyder. I'll tell you this much. He knows what to do with his money. So reach out to these people and talk to them and get yourself steered towards somebody who can you've got enough money and enough coming in to get you out of the hole that you're in. So work with these people to get out of the hole that you're in. And for God's sake, find somebody who knows what they're doing to talk to about this stuff, because you don't want to end up being one of these guys who, 3 years after they've retired, they're broke.
Too late.
You don't want to be that guy. You're too good a person to
even like walking into the Merrill Lynch office on a cold call basis is a better idea than payday lending.
Go to your bank.
Yeah. Like I said,
talk to somebody.
Walking in the Chase Bank walking up to the teller and saying, I'm Adrian Peterson, I would like a line of credit for $5 million is a better idea than a payday lender. I'm just telling you. Yeah, well said.
I'm expecting that he knows somebody, like somebody.
He
in
has
his
an
circle.
agent who's probably a lawyer. The agent, even if he's a sleazebag, and I'd have to look up his agent to figure out who it is. I'll do it in a minute. Even that is a better idea.
But my guess is that somebody who's close to him has pointed him into this, into these lenders. Is my guess. Yeah, it's unfortunate when I see people who, they don't come from stellar backgrounds in the first place. They have a talent and a work ethic that allows them to get to a place where they're, financially set for life, and their kids are financially, and to see that not go well, it's very, it saddens me when that happens, because I feel that they've put themselves in a position to be successful.
Yeah, but never fear though, because this isn't the end. This isn't the end of the story. There's more. I wasn't done.
Oh,
yeah.
good.
There is a judgment in the state of Maryland from some creditor called Democracy Capital Corp, which I've never heard of. $2.4 million. There is a judgment for $600,000 up in Minnesota. Now, I've never heard of Democracy Capital Corp. It could be all legit.
Sure.
It could be. With a name like Democracy Capital Corp, sounds like somebody who's trying to
sound legit.
Yeah, exactly, but isn't legit. My guess is that Democracy Capital is probably some other sleazebag, and it definitely isn't like some legit, venture capitalist. It's probably something along the lines of payday lending.
I'll tell you one thing. When we talk about, listening to the right people, not listening to the right people, I know enough people with money. There are enough people out there who have been successful, who believe that the way to be successful is to not pay a damn thing until a court makes you do it. That could be advice that he's getting from people that he feels like he should be trusting. Maybe it's just one of those things. Well, if they're willing to sue me for it, then we'll talk about paying them. But I'm not going to pay them back until they've shown that they're going to, because if they just drop it, or they feel like, he's got too much money, I can't compete with that, then he ends up not having to pay it. And until they try to collect, then he's in the clear.
Okay, so here's Democracy Capital has a website. Here's what they say.
Well, then they're legit, Steve.
Oh,
That's
absolutely, because we have a website, which means we're legit.
Sure we are.
Democracy Capital Corporation is a lender who specializes in niche real estate loans, bridge loans, and business loans. We are a boutique specialty lender with extensive experience in all types of small balance commercial loans. We are not a broker. We fund loans directly. Okay, so, and it goes, there's more, but yeah, okay, here we go. This is a second chance lender with high interest, okay?
Yeah.
Our clients are business owners, commercial real estate experts, and professional athletes who are in need of transitional financing. These clients may have been turned down for a bank loan based on their previous track record or lack of one, credit history, or uniqueness of the collateral loan requests. And so, if you translate that, what that means is this is a predatory lending type place.
Yeah, this is a 2 a.m. infomercial.
Yeah.
What, you can't? Nobody will give you a loan. We'll loan to anybody.
So this is not a legit loan either. And just to take a stab at the Minnesota one, I'm sure it's probably the same. We don't. I didn't look it up because the point's already been made. Now the other story that came out in conjunction with Adrian Peterson this week is everybody laughed at him for his 30th birthday party. Did you see this, John? I didn't mention this before the show.
I was not at his 30th.
Okay.
I skipped this year's celebration.
Okay. Well, it's surprising you did, actually, because what he did was, it's surprising you weren't invited, frankly.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
We don't know that I wasn't
invited,
but please
maybe
keep going.
Let me tell you, maybe you were there once I remind you what happened. He lives in a suburb of Houston, Texas called the Woodlands. Adrian Peterson does. And what he did is he flew 320 of his closest friends into Houston, all on first class travel, and then he put all 320 of them up in a hotel on his dime. So add that up. Take your calculators out, kids. Multiply 320 by 1,500. Do this, John. I want you to. Get your calculator.
1,500 times 3 is 4,500, which means then times 100 is $4.5 billion he spent at the hotels.
No, well, I'm talking. We're just doing just airfare alone. So airfare alone, it's between $450,000 and $500,000. Okay, he puts those 320 people up in hotels. Let's say $250 a night for that, right? That's another $80,000. So he spent between $500,000 and $600,000 on just travel alone. But here's the part that I'm thinking maybe you might remember this if you were there. He had a party in which he had belly dancers that he had flown in from New York.
Yes.
He had a python that he found in Dallas. He had
a found python.
No. He found a python guy and flew the python in from Dallas.
Yes.
He had a camel there. They was riding around. Is any of this ringing a bell so far?
You're going to have to get into more details. I'm so far.
Right. He had, of course, obviously stripper poles because, because
that's what pythons like to climb.
Yeah. And he had,
camels not as much.
He had 100 people working this party that were, he's paying 100 people to set the stripper poles up, the hookah bars, all of this stuff. So this is, this is like $1 million party. Okay,
it's a pretty good party.
Yeah, it's like $1 million party. It's Brewster's Millions come back, from the dead. That's what it is.
Richard Pryor was actually there.
Yeah, this is Richard Pryor came back from the dead.
Reanimated.
Yeah, was reanimated to come back to Adrian Peterson's birthday party. This is the type of expenses that Adrian Peterson was spending. Okay, on top of that, he has, I don't know the number, he has multiple children with multiple different women, which means he's paying multiple very large alimonies to multiple people on top of that. So this is sort of what happens. So the typical athlete here, great athlete, unsophisticated when it comes to finances, undereducated, don't tell me the University of Oklahoma spent a lot of time on his education, because they didn't.
No.
Right. And so he's spending $1 million on birthday parties. He's going to loan sharks and borrowing money.
At least. I think we've cleared $1 million at this point. I think $1 million is rapidly disappearing in the rear view with every.
Oh yeah, obviously. And so the idea, and I'm sure he's been doing this.
We haven't got to alcohol yet.
No, exactly. And cars. Who knows what he's driving? God knows. So this is how athletes get in trouble. They fritter away all this money, and then they have to go to people like Democracy Capital to borrow money, and then it's a never-ending trap. Now, Adrian's problem is he's got 1, maybe 2 years left in the NFL, tops.
Well, and this is the thing. And so one of the challenges here is that these guys want to live. So there is a crossover, a cultural crossover between sort of rap stars and athletes, and you see lots of music videos with guys wearing jerseys, and you see lots of athletes that are out there, trying to make music, and the crossover. There's a lot of the Venn diagram, the two circles very close together. The thing about a rap star is Dr. Dre is gonna keep making money for decades. Right?
On the residuals alone.
Jay-Z is, even if he doesn't want to, rap another line for the rest of his life, Jay-Z, not only on the residuals of his own shit, but he's managing other guys. He's got his own recording labels and all that. He's got his money and he's investing it, right? And he's playing it smart. And Dr. Dre's playing smart. Eminem's playing. These guys are gonna make money for a long time. Actors are gonna continue to make money for a long time. The athletes, and we're going to talk a little bit more about this in a couple minutes. Athletes, once you're done playing, you're done playing. Unless you're able to transition into you're going to become John Madden, or you're going to become
Coach.
Troy Aikman, or right. Yeah, you're going to go into coaching, you'll make some money. If you're going to go into broadcasting, you might make some money. Some people some people have transitioned into, like, The Rock was a football player. That didn't go so well.
He was never a pro football player.
Never a pro football player, right? But he wanted to be. So, who's our guy?
Terry Crews, right? Was in the NFL for a blink of an eye, a couple years, and now he's a major, Hollywood star.
So you can, right, Dick Butkus has made money. So you can make money in that way, but it's so rare that happens, that you can transition a pro career into a post athletic career. And that's why these guys can't spend like they're rappers, and they can't spend like they're movie stars, because they're not gonna. There's nothing that's gonna keep the money flowing when they're done.
Yeah, well, I mean, first of all, there's been rappers in bankruptcy court too. 50 Cent was, your point is valid. Your point here is that
My
a career,
valid,
the music
point.
career
That's
can
right.
extend on for more than a handful of years, and even if it doesn't, you still have the residuals, of the music coming in to some extent or another.
But they want that. The athletes want that lifestyle so hard.
Yeah, and there. Look, I mean, I don't feel sorry for them at all. Because 0.001% or whatever the number is of people get a chance to do what they do. So I have zero sympathy for you. I think it's sad, that these guys don't know any better, and they're letting themselves they're letting people take advantage of them. And I mean, it's easy to blame the NFL and all this on it. And the NFL's making depending on how you calculate it, it could be up to as much as $13 billion a year. Well, you know what?
Making more than some countries.
Here's the thing, though. I mean, football players at the end of the day are employees, okay? They don't own the business. They're not partners with the NFL. They're employees. They're important employees, and the NFL wouldn't exist without them. But at the end of the day, they're not partners. They're just contracted employees with contracts. The NFL doesn't owe them anything more than what is in the contract. You could argue maybe the agents owe these guys better advice, than what they're doing. But even the agent really only has to negotiate their contract. So Adrian Peterson is an adult.
Absolutely.
He is responsible for his own actions.
Trying to garner sympathy for Adrian Peterson. What I think has happened, Steve, is I think that in the last... I mean, in the 80s, these guys weren't getting paid nearly as much as they are now. It's really in the the last 20 or 30 years that these guys have started becoming mega rich. And the fact is that the industry, like the supporting industries around this, have not caught up with the changing salaries to the point where I don't think that in 50 years it's going to be nearly as commonplace for somebody who makes a boatload of money over a period of 10 to 15 years as an athlete. I don't think it's going to be as common, these sort of tragic tales of they've blown all their money and their life is trash now and all these things, because I think that the support industries around it, you're gonna have financial agencies that are more well known, that they turn to as a sort of a natural. I think that the industry will come around that supports these guys better than it has today. I think that some people are doing better than others, but really I think there are a lot of these kind of agencies that are going to develop and mature over time and give these guys a better network and help them make better choices.
Here's what I can tell you. I think, we on the show know, at least on the Hogstye part of it, know enough kind of insiders that we get some unvarnished views of these things sometimes. And what I can tell you is that the NFLPA has done a much better job in recent years about vetting agents. And so the agents nowadays are more or less legit. Excuse me. There were a bunch of predatory agents years ago, but my understanding is that that's sort of gone now, and that because the NFLPA does pay attention to this, and so the agents really aren't the problem. The problem now is these finance guys, and the finance guys are like literally lined up at the rookie symposiums. Come give us your money, and I'm not talking about Chase Bank. I'm talking about Vito Corleone. Finance Capital Inc.
Yeah, sleazeball.
Yeah, those are the guys, and those are much less regulated and vetted by the NFLPA than the agents are. And so this is where they're getting in trouble, are those guys more so than the agents now, from what I have been told, which has been like this week. I talked to somebody about this.
And that's what I'm talking about. I think that as time marches on, I think those guys get regulated. I think that the NFLPA probably does a better vetting job, or I think that those are the kind of support. So the regulation, whether it's by the Players Association or whether it's by the just by the market, I think that that's something that just needs to mature as the circumstances exist for a longer period of time.
Yeah. Now, to be fair, because we do want to be fair. Adrian
What?
Peterson, Adrian Peterson's attorney did release a statement. Now, Adrian Peterson's attorney is a guy named Chase Carlson, whose office is out of Florida, which frankly surprises me a little bit that it's in Florida, because this lawsuit is in Pennsylvania. But Chase Carlson's statement here on behalf of Adrian Peterson is this: the truth behind Adrian Peterson's current financial situation is more than being reported at this time. Because of ongoing legal matters, I am unable to go into detail, but I will say this is yet another situation of an athlete trusting the wrong people and being taken advantage of by those he trusted. Adrian and his family look forward to sharing further details when appropriate. That is the statement on behalf of Adrian Peterson on this matter.
I think he's got the wrong lawyer now too, because I think what the lawyer just said was he screwed up.
Well, the key phrase in here is this is another situation of an athlete trusting the wrong people. And so what I think he's probably getting at here, he's alleging that D'Angelo, if I could read into this, he's probably alleging that, and the response to the lawsuit is probably this too, D'Angelo Vehicle Sales promised him something and did another thing, who knows. He's alleging basically that D'Angelo Vehicle Sales is unscrupulous, which probably is true. But that doesn't mean that Adrian Peterson didn't borrow millions of dollars from a payday lender. You know, so that's a statement. I certainly wish Adrian the best of luck. I think it's kind of sad. He's got a contract that's worth about $2 million from the Redskins, $1.5 million guaranteed. So what once was $100 million gross, probably 40 or 50 million net to last Adrian a lifetime, has turned into 1.5 million minus the amount of these lawsuits, is now the nest egg for the rest of his life, plus his pension, which will not start immediately. So he's not going to live like a rock star. He's going to live like an average person for the rest of his life, unless something drastic changes.
34, 35 years old?
No, he's going to be 34. 34.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's kind of sad. He and Clinton Portis need to get together and figure out what to do from here, because Clinton is in the same situation as Adrian.
Well, yeah, we didn't see that coming.
Yeah. So.
Oh, Clinton.
Oh, Clinton. Yeah. So let's move on. To a related story, if you will. We talked about this last year a little bit, but I just find it funny, more so than anything, and it's come up again. If you guys remember, last year at this time, we talked about Eric Dickerson. God bless him.
Eric Dickerson
wrote a letter, actually it was in last September, to the commissioner of the NFL and to the NFLPA and to the Hall of Fame, saying that if he was not given lifetime health insurance and a salary and a salary from the Hall of Fame and a share of league revenue, that he was going to boycott the Hall of Fame ceremony. And that went south fast, because it turns out he had put a bunch of names on this letter that had never consented to have their names put on this letter. So it all went kaflooey, and he was frankly made to look pathetic and foolish. Well, despite the fact that he was made to look pathetic and foolish, he's made the same claim again this year. And so he's once again demanding all these things and threatening to sit out the Hall of Fame induction ceremony if he's not given a salary and benefits and all these things. So here we are again. I just wish we could get Eric on the show, because if he was on the show, what I would ask him is, under what basis are you claiming a salary? What services are you performing for the NFL or the Hall of Fame, and which would allow you to take a salary? And then what ownership interest do you have in the league that would grant you the right to own a share of league revenue? Thoughts?
My thoughts are, I don't think that he's doing anything that will warrant a salary. I do feel that there is a legitimate argument to be made that the NFL wouldn't be what it is today if it wasn't for the guys who made it exciting and turned today's fans into today's fans. I think that the NFL, certainly loves to trot them out and really, really likes to, talk about its legacy and its history and the toughness of the sport and the glory days and all of these things, and continues to leverage the names of these guys, the likenesses of these guys, video footage of these guys playing over and over and over again in order to strengthen its brand and strengthen its product. And it is a strong brand and it is a strong product. But I think that legitimately anybody who looks at it objectively has to say that the reason it is what it is today is because of what those guys do. And the NFL continues to go back to that well and draw it out. And a lot of these guys have been, left behind. And so I think that it would be incorrect to say that the Eric Dickersons and Lawrence Taylors and Joe Montanas are not still contributing to the strength of the NFL.
Yeah. I just think it's pathetic.
I know you.
I mean, it is. It's pathetic. I mean,
we fall on the opposite sides of some things. This looks like it's probably going to be one.
Yeah,
that's okay.
I mean, the original demand last year was a $300,000 salary.
I think the demands are off, and I think that he's probably starting somewhere with the idea that he's going to negotiate from there. You don't just
I think this is another guy who's an unsophisticated football player, doesn't know what the hell he's talking about, is what I think.
But he is a football player. That's what he is, a football player.
But you don't have to be unsophisticated, and you can be sophisticated and be a football player at the same time.
Well, yes, but he's not choosing not to be sophisticated.
That's not our problem. That's his problem.
No. Well, yes, that is his problem. Maybe that's why he's not a very good negotiator. But the fact that he opened up with something that you don't think is a good opening to negotiate with, and I'd agree with that. I don't think that what he was asking for was
not reasonable.
Was going to end up in the ballpark. But I believe that the core underlying question that he's asking, which is why are we not being taken care of when you guys are continuing to benefit from what we did, is a legitimate question.
Well, here's what I think the NFLPA should ask for. The lifetime healthcare thing is something that could be done. In consideration of, what these... I'm sitting here trying to find a name. Here it is. Okay. I'll get to this in a minute. What the NFLPA could bargain in the CBA for lifetime benefits for vested retirees, say, over a certain amount of time. If these players have over X number of vested years in service, like 10 years or something,
more than 6 years or
whatever number is, you could get the NFL to grant them free lifetime health insurance. NFL pay the premiums for lifetime. The NFL makes a lot of money, and they could figure that out financially. That's a reasonable bargaining position. And then you could back off of that and say, the players pay the deductible or pay some nominal amount and monthly. You get a really good deal in health insurance, maybe. Which, there. And by the way, I mean, the NFL benefits are spectacular. When you're an active player, the book is across the room over here, but they've got all sorts of benefits: medical, tuition assistance. There's also
when you're playing, sure, yeah.
Now, but when you're retired, you get a pension, and that's kind of it. Now, there's something called the Pro Football Retired Players Association. This was created recently as a result of one of these lawsuits. We follow them on Twitter. It's frankly how I became even aware of them. They only have 400 followers on Twitter, which means nobody knows who they are. But I did look into them a little bit. The Pro Football Retired Players Association offers things like medical benefits. Now, it's not, they're not paying for it. This is allowing you to get, by virtue of being a member of the association, they have group medical benefits, so you can buy into it. That's a good thing. It's a start. Great. But where the NFL could also go is, the NFL could pay money into the system to make it really cheap in consideration of the fact that these guys gave their body to the game.
They could. I think what we're running into is a situation where the NFL doesn't see a need to.
It's not just the NFL. It's the NFLPA doesn't see a need to either.
Right. That's right. Because the show is just business, and as we always say, it comes down to the money. Why should they? If you want to look at it from the cold financial perspective, which is sort of what we're here to analyze in some ways, you look at the NFL, the NFLPA. What do they have to lose by not doing this? Right? Why should they? Is it the right thing to do? Sure, these guys put their body on the line. They gave a lot, yada, yada, yada. And so when you look at Dickerson and what is he talking about, he's trying to figure out what kind of leverage do these guys have at all. And the only things that, that come to mind is, well, I'm not going to trot myself out in a gold jacket, to show, how great the legacy
but you know how much leverage that is?
Very little,
right?
And that's the thing. He's grasping at straws to find leverage, right? You have a few other things. Sometimes these guys get, they do deals. They show up in Madden as historic players. They can take that away. But some other guy, until they organize, until they actually become an extension of the NFLPA, an extension of it, unionize on their own. Okay, well, he's not going to show up in Madden. That's okay. Madden will turn to John Stallworth or some other guy, right? It doesn't matter to them unless they can solidify as a group and say, you know what, you guys you're not going to get any of us at the Hall of Fame. You're not going to get any of us on Madden. You're not going to get any of us showing up, to offer perspectives on talk shows or whatever. Once you're not going to take care of us, we're not going to contribute to your brand at all.
Yeah, of course, the NFL doesn't care about Madden.
But since that's all these guys have,
yeah,
that's a source of income, right? What is you're going to go work at Staples or something? This is a source of income for them that it's very hard for them to turn down. So I agree with Eric Dickerson in his thinking that the NFL and the NFLPA should be working to do more to protect these guys. I think it's a long conversation. I don't think that there's any solution that can be, figured out in the short term.
And I think if you were lining up the right role model, the right people to be the face of this, Eric Dickerson would not be on the list. He's not sophisticated enough. He's just going about it all the wrong way. And frankly, I mean, I blame the union. I always blame the union because I think it's safe to blame unions for most things. Quite honestly, I mean, now unions have outlived their usefulness in American society.
We're not going to get into that.
Yeah, but specifically with this point, the thing about it is, it's easy to blame the NFL, but the NFLPA could be doing more to ask for these things, but they don't really have a motivation for it either. Okay, and let me explain.
That's the problem.
You know this, John, but for the benefit of the audience, the people who pay union dues are active members of the union, okay?
Right.
And that, for the purposes of the NFL Players Association, that's current players. And nobody's ever accused a football player of having the long view, necessarily. And from the union perspective, I think the priority number one is to take care of their active paying members. And while Eric Dickerson is a Hall of Famer and admired and everything, these guys are born in like 1995. Okay, between early 90s. Some of them never saw Eric Dickerson play. They don't know who he is. They don't really care about that. They care about here and now. What is our revenue split?
Right now.
What is our revenue split? And so the NFLPA itself is not motivated to make retired player benefits that much of a priority in the NFL in the CBA negotiations, where they're willing to give up something for active players to help guys like Eric Dickerson.
Yeah. So they will be incentivized, and this is going to come around. It's going to take time, and again, I think it goes back a little bit to what we were talking about earlier about the fact that the amount of money that these guys are making now is different. The kind of client that an NFL player is a different kind of client than it was in '85 or 1990. There's a lot more money involved. You're absolutely 100%, Steve, correct in that they're thinking about, what's my revenue split right now? I'm thinking about my upcoming contract, how much of it is guaranteed, what happens if I'm injured, yeah. But all of the players who are currently paying active members of the NFLPA, who are paying dues today, these are the guys who are going to have Eric Dickerson problems in 20 years, right? These are the same people. And so they absolutely, if they stopped and thought about it and said, you know what, we're not going to sign the next CBA with the NFL until the NFL comes to agree upon what's going to happen to me 20 years down the road. Who's going to take care of what is my life going to look like? And it's not a conversation that they're going to, because right now they're thinking about how many games on there, what's the preseason, what are the rules, protect me right now, protect me today. But at some point, part of the conversation is going to be more about what does the pension look like today versus what does the pension look like down the road. Because this is something that unions regularly get into. What are the retirement benefits? How does this happen? What happens to me after I give you everything that I've got to help you guys make money?
That's sweet. That really is.
It's going to be part of the conversation.
John.
But it will be part of the conversation.
I get it. But these are people
I'm right about everything eventually. You know that.
These are people who go to payday lenders. Okay?
Some of them
Do
are.
Do you really think that the majority of the voting members of the NFLPA are thinking a whole heck of a lot about 20 years from now?
No, and this is why I say it's a long conversation, because I don't think they're thinking about it right now. You just look at the way Cam Newton dresses. He's not thinking about the future, right? But that's not to say that everybody in here is stupid. And nobody's going to think about the future.
My point is, I think the bulk of these
raise
people
it up as a concept, and nobody's going to convince the other athletes that it's important.
There's not enough of the voting members of the NFLPA who are sophisticated enough to think about things like what you're saying. It's just true.
Totally
I'm not saying they're stupid or anything like that. I'm just saying the focus of most of these folks are the here and now.
Right.
I
agree. That's where it is today. But I think that as time goes on, because again, we're not talking about a super long time that this has been an issue. It's a fairly recent conversation. We're only really just now getting into what happens to the superstars, right? Because the superstars of the 50s, who could have been having this conversation,
they were making no money.
80s, it wasn't even a concept back then.
Listen, in the 80s, the minimum salary in the NFL was about $40,000.
$40,000.
The minimum salary this year is $495,000.
Right.
Which isn't Donald Trump money, but that's more than enough money to live a high lifestyle and still bank a ton of money for your future, And instead we have guys buying Bentleys, So listen, let's sum this because we've run out of time for this.
We've run out of
Eric
time,
Dickerson,
Steve. Just admit I'm right and we'll move on.
No, Eric Dickerson's demand is absurd. There's no basis whatsoever for demanding a salary, let alone from anyone, let alone $300,000 a year. That's utterly ridiculous. They're not providing
The demand is wrong.
They're not.
The cause is right. The demand is wrong.
See, I don't know if Eric Dickerson's thinking about anybody but Eric Dickerson is the other thing.
I'm not Eric Dickerson.
The lifetime health care thing, okay, I get it. He's just going about this in a completely absurd way that makes him, frankly, look foolish. The broad general concept of improving the rights of former retired football players, sure, absolutely. The funny part about it was this didn't start with all football players. He's talking about just Hall of Famers, okay? His original demands were not provide lifetime health insurance for everybody and a salary for everybody. It was for Hall of Famers alone. Now, he kind of backtracked off that later, a week later after everybody beat him up in the media and said, well, this was just the starting point, But the fact of the matter is he's just, as a very broad general concept, I don't disagree that the NFLPA should be negotiating for better benefits for all. And like the leadership, like DeMaurice Smith should be preaching this stuff to the members. And he's the one, he does know, and he should be telling you guys need to think about 20 years from now. I agree with that broad general concept with you, John, but the way Eric Dickerson's going around about it is just utterly absurd.
He's not doing it. Yeah. He's not doing it.
And skipping, and the NFL, if I were the NFL, I'd say, so you're going to skip the Hall of Fame, broadcast? Oh my God, so what? Skip it. What do we care? And that's exactly what the NFL has thought because they didn't respond at all. They didn't even respond. Their thought is, we don't care if you're there or not. It's not about you anyway.
We have another quick thing to talk about. In terms of retirement, Steve.
Yes.
I have some terrible news for Jaguars fans. The era that began with former Ole Miss safety Zedrick Woods, who ran the fastest at 4.29, the fastest 40-yard dash in the combine. It was not fast enough to get him drafted by anybody. but it was fast enough to get his name into the news. Zedrick Woods has retired as a Jacksonville Jaguar after amassing, I believe, 0 days playing at any level within the NFL. The Zedrick Woods era is
over.
An abrupt and sad close.
Can I assume that Zedrick Woods was signed as an undrafted free agent by the Jacksonville Jaguars and went to a mini camp and a handful of OTA days and has now decided it's not for him and he's now, quote, retiring? Is that what you're saying?
Something changed his mind. I don't know if it was it may have been our last podcast.
It could have been.
It may have been the looming story of the tragic tale of Adrian Peterson and what could happen if you actually succeeded at this job.
It allows you to
or fast forwarding the tragic tale of Eric Dickerson and what could happen if you actually succeeded at this job. Anything is possible. But Zedrick Woods, really fast guy. Faster than anyone else at the combine, Steve. And fastest to leave the NFL.
You know what the funny part about this story
faster than anyone else at the combine.
The really funny story about this is he apparently filed some sort of retirement paperwork with the NFL. That's what's funny.
Important. That's when your name is Zedrick, you have to do things a certain way.
I'd like to
sophisticated.
Yeah, I'd like to advise Mr. Woods that on sort of a broad general basis, to have retired from a job means you have done the job, which he's done 0. And to retire from the NFL in particular, you have to build up a certain number of vested years in the NFL to obtain retirement status. And how many vested years has he built up again, John? Tell me.
He almost made it. He almost
made it to training camp.
He almost reported to training camp.
So his retirement is actually just an I quit. I'd really love to see what he filed with the NFL. That's what's the funniest part about it.
He's so fast. He finished his career
in just a couple
way
months.
Faster than anyone else. Apparently, according to someone he has an agent who goes by the name of Ron Butler, probably because that's his name. According to his agent, Woods has been dealing with turf toe. And the agent assumes that Woods has not been in a great place mentally in terms of the injury and decided this would be best for him, his career, and his future. His career was mentioned in there, that this would be the best thing for his career, which tells you how much he thought of his career.
Some people need to... using the term retirement just makes these guys look foolish. See, we laugh at this because it's so ridiculous. Again, no.
Well, it's pretty funny.
It is pretty funny. But he's not the only one who's done this. He's not the only first-year player who claims to retire. It's like, dude, learn what retirement means. You quit. It's fun. You don't want to play. That's cool with me. Don't play.
If he didn't claim to retire, nobody would have even heard of the guy. He'd have been a line item somewhere in the NFL.com transactions page.
Jacksonville Jaguars waived Zedrick Woods.
Jacksonville Jaguars waived guy who didn't show up.
Yeah.
And then he'd have just gone on with his life. But now he's in the news. And we're talking about him on the It's Just Business podcast, which ultimately, as has been brought up several times by various Hall of Fame athletes, is the goal. Getting a ring, that's nice. Everybody's happy to get a ring. But ever since the It's Just Business podcast came into existence, was birthed in a grotesque and unsightly manner, ever since that fateful day, that's been the true goal of... and so Zedrick Woods has achieved the goal.
He's achieved the goal.
He's achieved the dream.
The It's Just Business podcast was born one night when I woke up in a mass of sweat, wondering how I can spend more of my time for no money.
Another sweaty Steve Thomas birth story.
Yeah, exactly. So, good luck to Mr. Woods in your retirement, after a long and distinguished NFL career of 2 months.
It's been good having you, Zedrick.
Yep. And it's been good having you guys both all both. Hopefully, it's more than two of you. Yeah,
and thank you.
Thank you for all you guys who are listening to the show. John, you can be found on social media to a certain extent or another. What is your social media?
You quiz me on this every time. I wasn't prepared this time. Why don't you give your non-social media self?
Yeah, I'm not on social media, but you can find me. Not on social media, but you can find me on the Hogsty Twitter feed if you want me there. And now, John, I'll just tell you that the Hogsty Twitter account, which is getting close to 4,000 members now,
which you started, the Hogsty Twitter account tweeted at John Worrell, and John Worrell did not respond. Did not respond yet. Let's be clear about the I'm no Zedric Woods.
But this was like a month ago, John.
Well, I'm still not Zedric. I think I missed the last show, which means that I haven't opened up my laptop in a month.
Yeah, exactly. I tweeted at you.
Wait a second here. Now I've got... So here's my problem with the Twitter. I get all of these things pop up as notifications, and it's a bunch of crap that I don't care about. And lost in there somewhere could well be
the tweets from the Hogsty.
Somebody that said something. Wait, Chris Lawrence said, "Wow, that was pretty impressive."
See?
Was that what you're talking about? Did Chris say "wow" to me?
Well, I don't remember. It's been too long. It's been so long that I don't remember.
I found where they are. It's called mentions.
Now you know. See? Okay, so now you know where to look. We taught you something today. Now tell the people, so we can get off this show, that your Twitter handle, so then they can tweet at you, and now you know where to find what they're saying to you.
If you want to tweet to me, ask Steve at John_Worrell. WORRALL is how you spell Worrell.
Okay.
It's remember that because it's coming back to you.
And so, at some point in the next 2 weeks before the next show, we from the Hogsty are going to tweet at you to see if you answer. So it'll be another test.
Sons of bitches.
And with that, we will bid you a fair adieu. Please go out and hit the payday lenders, and so you will have enough money to listen to the next show. And
help Adrian Peterson. He's got a GoFundMe, probably.
Probably so. And with that, we will say bye.